Pfizer's vaccine for younger children is one step closer to being approved after clearing a major hurdle on Tuesday. An FDA advisory committee voted unanimously to recommend lower doses of the shot for kids between the ages of 5 and 11. The panel said that any potential risks of the vaccine are outweighed by its benefits. The FDA will still need to authorize Pfizer's shot. It will then need to be recommended by the CDC. CBS News correspondent Janet Shamlian reports.
Don't look.
The FDA decision will impact some 28 million across the country. It's the same 2-shot, 3 weeks apart regimen as adolescents and adults, but only a third of the dose. The shots will have a different colored cap and be given with a smaller needle. More than 6 million American children contracted COVID since the pandemic started. More than 700 under the age of 18 have died.
Children may get fever, muscle aches, headache, chills, and they may get a sore arm.
Okay, not a big deal.
Dr. Emmanuel Walker, who helped run Pfizer's pediatric trial at Duke University, says 4,500 children took part overall.
Which is really a pretty good-sized trial, especially when you have the safety track record that we've seen in adolescents and adults.
7-year-old Lydia Mello and her 5-year-old sister Bridget were part of that trial.
It was sort of something brave to do, and we thought it would keep us safe.
That's great. Did you feel okay about it when you did it?
Yes.
Their parents, Megan and Jim, said they first got the okay from the family's pediatrician.
I think if we can all create that herd immunity, that we can all finally start coming out of this and start leading a normal life, and our kids interacting and playing and running around together, and families and friends getting together and just returning to a normal life.
The FDA usually follows the recommendations of the advisory panel. A CDC panel is expected to weigh in next week, and it's possible that shots could be going into young arms by the end of next week at pharmacies, pediatricians' offices, and clinics. Elaine?
Janet Shamlian, thank you. For more, I want to bring in Dr. Ben Weston. He is an associate professor of emergency medicine at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Dr. Weston, welcome. Can you walk us through some of the factors that played into the advisory committee's decision?
Yeah, thank you for having me back. Well, the first factor that I think we have to consider is the impact that COVID has had on children. Certainly it's less than older adults, but nonetheless, we've seen a lot of kids getting sick. And perhaps more importantly, we've seen a lot of kids with long-term effects from COVID. So that's the first consideration. And then the second, of course, is the efficacy and the safety profile of the vaccine. And it seems like we have a very effective vaccine preventing about 91% of COVID illness. And the safety profile seems to be outstanding. You get the minor sort of things, a sore arm, some body aches, a little bit of a headache, maybe a mild fever, but no serious adverse effects.
Pfizer's study, as I understand it, wasn't large enough to determine if there are any cases of rare side effects, including heart inflammation that has occurred mostly in some young men and teen boys. Do you have any concerns with that?
Well, certainly that's a side effect to keep a close eye on. Now, when we look at data from other places, such as Israel, it seems that the myocarditis is highest in teenagers rather than this younger age group. It's also important to keep in mind what sort of risk level we're talking about. So we're talking about myocarditis in about one person out of maybe 1 to 200,000 that are getting the vaccine. So there's two important considerations there. One is that when you compare that to COVID disease, it's about 16 times higher with COVID disease that you'd get myocarditis. And the other factor is not to downplay myocarditis at all, but these are typically mild cases that resolve and don't lead to any sort of long-term consequences for the child.
Well, if ultimately approved, the Pfizer vaccine will only be available for children 5 and older. So what about parents of infants and toddlers? How can they keep their kids safe until a shot is available for them?
Well, hopefully we'll see that shot available soon enough. But in the meantime, it's about the same tenets of protection that we've been talking about all along. So if your child's old enough, keep them in a mask. Certainly keep them distanced from other children and other unvaccinated people. And then try to keep them in open air environments, whether it's ventilated or outdoors. The same things that we've all been doing for the last 20 months to prevent the spread of COVID.
Well, the CDC has updated its guidance on boosters and now says some people with weak immune systems who got a third shot of Moderna or Pfizer can get a fourth shot after 6 months. Doctor, do you foresee boosters becoming a regular occurrence for some people?
Well, I think it's hard to say right now. For the immunocompromised group, it is a little bit different because they don't seem to have as robust an immune response. And that's why we're seeing this fourth dose as a possibility. So if you've gotten the first two, 28 days later, you can get that additional dose, and then you can still get boosted about 6 months later. But for people who aren't immunocompromised, and potentially for everybody, it's hard to say right now. Is this really a 3-dose vaccine that we're seeing? And after this booster dose, it'll be much longer lasting immunity? Or will it be something similar to the flu shot, where we'll need to get another vaccine, an additional dose, a booster, about every year? We're not sure about that yet.
All right, we'll wait to see what the data show. Dr. Ben Weston, thanks for sharing your expertise with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.